So I think now we're going to move to the panel. Are you able to stay with us for the panel, Seth? Awesome. I believe Pete is here as well, and Richie.
Yes, sir.
I want to
Hey,
kick
what's
out one
up?
extra Ben. Seth. Okay. Pete, will you be able to moderate the panel and lead everyone? I think.
Uh, I didn't plan on doing that. Like I haven't prepared any questions or anything. I just joined the panel
Okay.
because we lacked one of the participants that dropped out. So that's why I jumped in.
Okay.
Uh,
Well, I
okay,
think
give me
one of the places
one
I want
question.
to start with that we kind of left off the source code part was is with integration and communicating how developers integrate with the platform and making kind of tutorials and education that kind of go along with tooling. Obviously, building tools is hard enough as it is, but communicating them effectively is just as difficult. Um, let's talk a little bit about um, what goes into communicating what's happening with these tools and educating um, even people in the DAO space how to effectively use these tools.
I could
Richie, do
jump
you want?
in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
So I think that one of the things that's unique about the DAO space is that it's a team sport, even amongst the tools. And so one thing that I always like to look at is, first of all, is this tool a team player, or are they trying to do it all themselves, right? And then the other thing is, um, if they are a team player, then like what's their position, right? And so I think that tools should do what they're really good at, and then they should leave the things that they're like not their core thing to other tools and integrate. And so aligning with standards, right? Being, making sure that the inputs you accept things that are composable, that your outputs are composable whenever possible, is obviously preferred. And so I sort of look to say like, okay, well, we're building a team, and who are the other players in the field, and what are the other positions, and who can fill those positions, right? And so when I see things like all-in-one DAO tools, I'm like, well, there's no all-in-one business tool, so I don't know what that means. And so I like to look for other tools that are trying to play a team sport. And so like as far as communicating goes, it's like, how are you communicating amongst your peer group about what you're trying to, what your contribution is, right? Contributions all the way down.
Great, thanks. Raj, how about you? How does Bipso handle education and communicating what they're doing and integration with other developers or other platforms?
So yeah, so at Wipso, what we have is like since we are a studio, right? So on our workspace itself, we have demos of all the features and everything that Wipso has to offer. So that is how we are educating a new user. And regarding the development, taking help of community for doing anything, right? So Pipso, in the name itself, it is built in public. So that means that we are open for everyone's suggestion. So our community calls, our team calls happens open in the Discord that anyone can join and share suggestions, share recommendations, whatever they want to. But yeah, there's a core team working on it. But if community is open to explore, we definitely give them all the required permissions. So that's how development works at Pipso right now.
I think building in the open is critical. It knocks down the walls and makes sure that the innovation that we're creating can be shared between the people that are using it, rather than kind of hiding innovation. Uh, I used the analogy yesterday of the gardens and us all kind of planting things together. So I think that part is really critical. Seth, how about SourceGrid? How does SourceGrid support developers and integration? I know we talked a little bit about it before, but what kind of education is set up for tuning the source cred for a DAO that might not know how to use it?
Yeah, so one thing that we've worked a lot on the last few months is documentation. I think you'll find the developer documentation is better now. I don't think that we have great materials on the how to configure a source cred instance and make it work for your community. That's something that like we've talked a ton about, and we've helped a lot of communities, but we don't. Yeah, that's definitely sort of lacking right now.
Yeah, it's always a really big challenge. And I think one of the best ways that we can help is by like community and tribal knowledge and sharing what we do, because or other organizations have kind of suffered through some of the pains, or they've figured out some of the tricks. I think sharing that knowledge with other people, and if anyone has any questions about source cred, reaching out to other people that have maybe had those same questions, relieves a lot of the burden on the organization as well. So that's the other reason for, having openness and sharing. So I think that's the best way to get support, and for us to communicate what we're doing is by having spaces like what we're doing now, where we get to talk about the tools and talk to the people that are doing things that are great and on the forefront. Thank you. Pete, you want to talk a little bit about how metagame educates people and communicates what they're doing with the outside world, and some of the challenges of dealing with a wide variety of voices when trying to communicate?
Yeah, definitely challenging. But I think with metagame, you kind of from the beginning, it was a stance of like metagame is not going to appeal to everyone. It's like it's not everyone is going to like even get metagame and want to get involved. We didn't try to make it like as broad as possible to appeal to everyone, and that's we actually received criticism for that. But where was I going with this? I think the newsletter is what helped the most, like to keep people in the loop, because Discord is just impossible. Like you really need to be super active in the community to know what's happening, and you can't really be active in more than a few Discord servers. I don't know if anybody succeeds in like really keeping track of more than like a handful of Discord servers. I don't even get out of the metagame server much, but the newsletter I think is great for keeping the wider community in the loop, and then obviously Twitter. Like you gotta share Twitter.
I think one of the other great parts, sorry, Richie, is the memes and like the large context that's placed in like having fun and expressing it, rather than it all just being a digest. If it was boring, it would just be another list or like a stock report. So metagame does a great job of digesting a lot of complex information and making fun of it a little bit, and making it in a way that people can have fun with it. So I think that's one of the great parts about the communication and education that metagame does. Thanks. Richie?
Yeah, that's actually super underrated, right? Like the putting out a weekly newsletter is really hard. One email a week, really hard to do. We figured out, we actually created like a dedicated team for this stuff. We have like education pod in Clarity that has like dedicated contributors who just focus on taking somebody from like sign up to like activated user. And so they set up like embassies and Discords, and they send out the weekly roundup, and are now working on like a self-serve content library and everything. And especially with like the 2.0 release, now we can actually invest in all this content, because like the product's not going to like radically change tomorrow the way it did last week. And so we can actually start to invest in this even more. So we have like this dedicated pod that's just to do this stuff, because it takes so much effort to do it. And it's like a totally separate function from marketing or building. It's like this, marketing is like get you to sign up. And then like what happens from sign up to like actually using it every day or close to every day, that's like a whole separate discipline. And we found like we need dedicated people to do that.
Great. I think that's one of the things that I want to talk about now is like the breadth of communities kind of getting involved. So obviously, if we've got kind of local or very focused communities, it's much easier to get them involved because they don't interact with as many people. 5 people are able to get a lot more done than 50 people or 100 people if they're all kind of working on the same subject, which is a little bit crazy. Have you found kind of squads that form up and or how has been like the best um, work that's been done on your project? Has it been squads? Has it been larger groups? Has it been the kind of community building thing? Um, I think I'll start this time with Seth, and we'll go the opposite way. Seth, how have people mainly been building on SourceGrid? Has it mainly been the organization that was supporting it? Have there been small teams that kind of supported things along the way, or how has it? Have you seen a change over different parts of the organization?
Yeah, so like maybe like a year and a half ago, I'm just making that up, but something like that, SourceCred started decentralizing and using sociocracy as our basic model. And so we had like sociocracy circles with like certain domains, which are like kind of similar to pods and other stuff. Yeah, I think that worked pretty well. I do think like the one thing that did pop into my mind when you were talking about the newsletter though is the political difficulties if the pods aren't aligned. For instance, like kind of towards the end there when we were seeing a lot of like conflict and misalignment, I was on a small team of people creating the newsletter, and I like almost every paragraph, I felt like I was making some sort of like decision that affected other people, and like I'm seeing Richie's eyebrows go up. And so I'm kind of curious if he's had similar experiences or not, but like, yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing. I think let's take it to Raj first. Richie, hold your thought for it. Raj, how about have you guys seen difference in building? Has it mainly been small teams that are building? Do you guys have a larger team that builds effectively? I know that the community is a big part of how you guys build as well.
So for now, we have a team, like we have dedicated teams for different areas of the product. Because when we are building a product, right, we need people who are working on it for a long time. If we are involving community, there's a high chance that those people might get something else to work tomorrow, and they might need to leave. Circumstances might be different for everyone, right? So while building a product, it is very important that we have full-time people who are affiliated with the product for long term. So that's why we have teams right now. But at times, when someone from community recommends to add some feature, we give them access to certain repositories, and we accept PRs from them too. Like few of our hires are from community itself. Like these people showed interest, they started contributing, and that's how we hired them full time. So so right now it is teams, but yeah, we are exploring how we can make it more community centric, and how we can make it open for community. But I don't think until unless we have a proper product uh, with all the areas which are working very perfectly, we are not making it open source, because that's just diluting the product in the beginning. That's what I believe.
Okay, great. Thanks, Raj. Richie, how about you?
So the reason I raised my eyebrows when Seth was talking is because I've been there. Like I've collaborated in communities where they spread out too fast, and then you have like there's no alignment on what we're doing for like a season, and then you're sort of like walking on eggshells if you try and summarize what everyone's doing because everyone's got a different picture of it, and that just feels absolutely horrible. And so whenever I feel that, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that, because you don't ever want to feel that again. You'll never tolerate misalignment once you go through like bad misalignment. So yeah, but the way that we think about like community driven development is, so we have our roadmap is completely public, and we don't commit to timelines on features. We just communicate our current level of confidence on a feature set. And so we have a whole pipeline. Any conversation that anyone on our team has with a customer is screenshot and goes into our feedback channel internally, where it gets processed and summarized by someone. They drop it in Clarity, it gets like tagged, and it boils up into our public roadmap. And so you can see every like insight that a customer or request that a customer has made that's made it through that pipeline. And they basically like cluster up in our public roadmap in Clarity. And then we like move those clusters up and down. And sometimes they're like just like problem areas. And sometimes they are like, as they move up in confidence, they obviously become like solutions, like things that we actually think we're going to build. And so the top thing before it's in progress is like feeling confident. Like these are things you're feeling confident for. And what this does is it lets somebody come in, they can see something that's like lower on the list from like a confidence perspective. And then they can like, and this has happened now multiple times, we'll get like a long email or a request for a call or something. And they're like, hey, I can take your confidence level on this from down here all the way up there with this email. And then there's sure enough, there's like things. So that's why we don't commit to timelines, because it's like not about ordering, it's about confidence. And so someone can come in and just say like, all right, like I'm going to make a case for this. And all of a sudden, like next week, we're building that thing because they just like made an incredible case for why that should be the next thing we focus on. And so that's kind of how we focus on it. And I haven't really seen anyone else do this. We kind of like just came like after years of working on the product, this is like sort of the way that we've ended up doing it. And it's been what's working the best so far. And then obviously when things go into public roadmap, when they go into development, they're in Clarity as projects, like in the doc, which is like unique to our product. And it says in there, the status, who's working on it, and the expected like target date that it'll ship. And so you can see everything right there. And so that's the most transparent I've seen anyone be with their roadmap. And so we're trying to do that as much as possible. And then we have like we separate our team rather than podifying by like departments or like areas of the product. We podify by discipline. So it's like functional organization. So we have like a design pod, an engineering pod, an education pod, right? And these folks all collaborate across pods to like deliver something. And that's why we move really fast, because like the whole org is focused on one thing at a time. But everyone's got their area of discipline. So we ship like ridiculously fast because we have that like by discipline structure.
Yeah. That's a nice split of the team. I've definitely worked on a bunch of different ones. Some where the teams were kind of self-contained and they had everything they needed, and I've been on teams where they're split by the discipline. Thing I like about the discipline, as you said, is that the ability to communicate across your stack is a lot easier rather than being isolated and only knowing you're part of the problems. So I think that's a big help for.
No one can do anything without communicating. So it's impossible to get an echo chamber because you can't actually deliver anything fully without talking to the other pods.
Yeah, great. Pete, how about metagame? How does metagame work effectively? Have you found that large group communication has been effective? You think that our raid groups have been effective? What's kind of been the most effective part of metagame and communication?
I want to start with the.
You're muted.
I want to start with how we do the roadmaps. So we did it at the very beginning. It was just me starting metagame. Then I split it into 3 phases, and it was just the vague roadmap of how it progresses long term. And then we started, when enough people came, we started playing it in seasons. And then so we made the seasons like the normal seasons, and then every Every 3 months we have a like seasonal closing and launching ceremony where we go about reflect on like what happened in the past seasons, what we liked, what we didn't like, and there's a few questions that everybody answers there. And then we do another board that's like what do we like look forward to the next season, what we want to be working on, what's our personal goals, things like that. And we also did sprints often with then do after with those ideas that came up there to further like narrow down. But I think then and then we like had this roadmap in the Notion, and I think that's actually this is kind of the biggest friction point was that like we would come up with the roadmap and put it in Notion, and then we could stay there in that single page, like separate from the actual task boards, which are split across like somewhere in Notion, and then the technical side is on GitHub. So that's always been a challenge, like navigating across all these different tools and not having all of the tasks that you're assigned to like in a single place. And but the way we like keep the communications up is through having the champions ring. So in metagame split we have the functional teams, but we also have like the raid teams. So every raid and every guild, which is like the functions has a champion and should have a deputy, although not all them currently have a deputy. And then those like champions meet once a week where we communicate like what's going on inside these different parts of metagame and like try to solve the common roadblocks.
I think that time together for the sprint digest, how did things go? What are we going to do next? Is something that you see a lot in a traditional company, but usually organizations in our space don't take time to. But I think as we're talking about communication and planning and understanding where other people are, it's a critical part of communication. So I think that the season ending and the season planning are really important. I also really like that there's the functional groups where the guilds get together and they have someone that can help mentor them and show them the tasks that they can do, different outlets to help grow as a person in these respective fields. But then also they have their respective raids and jobs that they're part of for the organization. So they do have some effective groups that they're on for responsibilities. So I think that having the dual phases of the community is a really great approach to managing them. Thank you. So I think one of the hard parts of any organization is keeping core contributors and attracting people with talent and passion for what you're doing. Can we talk a little bit about what it takes to attract talent and keep them focused and working on interesting things? I'm going to start with Raj.
Yep, finding good talent is hard. Keeping them is even harder. We all we all have faced that at some point in life, right? So, according to me, one thing that works with us is people who are joining BEP, they don't join for the money or for the job or for the work. They join for the vision that we are having, that the product is having, that the founder is having. So having that vision aligned, right, and keeping it aligned, having that motivation, giving that motivation to team members from time to time, that's something that's very important. Like it's a small thing, but then keeping that fire alive, right, that's one of the most important things for any company to retain their talent. Finding talent is easy, retaining them is hard. So we focus more on making sure that once someone joins web, they get whatever they want. If they feel like they are not able to explore into engineering and they want to explore into product side of it, we give them a chance, because as a startup it's our responsibility to make sure that people who are working in our team gets whatever they want. Like as a founder, uh, the founder's job should be to help the team grow. right? It shouldn't be just to make sure that the product is getting developed. We need to make sure that the team is also growing with the product. So for that, it is very important for us to see and take care of what the people actually want, and then emphasis on that side. So this is something that's working for Pep, uh, for retaining good talent. Yeah, you're mute, I guess.
Great, thank you. So Seth, how about you? What's your opinion about attracting talent and retaining them to projects, especially in Web3, where people have lots of distractions and things? How do we best motivate people to join and participate?
So yeah, I wouldn't. I don't think I was like so involved with that in SourceCred, the org, and so I don't know how much I have to say there. I I will say an interesting trend I've seen in communities using SourceCred is them using it to recruit and retain people. Um, if you can start getting paid immediately for contributing on a governance forum, that's very compelling for a lot of people. And another thing we've seen is sort of like a chain migration, or where like someone is like gets brought on full time, and then they'll get their friends signed up for SourceCred, and to like help bring them in. And then I think it can also kind of just help with sort of like general retention as well. Although we do often see issues around SourceCred competing with other forms of compensation. Like if people are getting a salary, do they get SourceCred as well? But that's like a whole nother thing. I'll just leave for now.
I think that the ability to pay contributors quickly and that they can see an immediate kind of impact of their efforts is key. I think, as you mentioned, the chain and basically the ability for strong contributors to attract other strong contributors. Like one of the things that we've seen, especially for metagame, is that the big part is about having fun together and about experiencing things together and building together. So I think that having people that you can learn from and that you are aligned with is one of the reasons that I'm working in almost everything that I do. As you say, the financial reason is almost out the window or is a very low consideration for some people. I think that the thirst for knowledge and the ability to build important things is one of the key reasons that we're all here. So very well put. Thank you. Pete, how about metagame? I know I touched on it a little bit, but how does metagame attract and retain key people?
Yeah, I would say the same thing that you said and that Raj already said. You just said it like, yeah, I think the key is just building this strong community, because I've seen that it's hard to retain, especially in the in the bull market when there's so many distractions and like hundreds of other thousands, maybe thousands of other cool projects that you can dedicate your time to, and especially underpaid time or non-paid time. So it's definitely hard, but yeah, building that as you said, like the community that just likes hanging out together and learning from one each other, things like that. And
things and other things like that make sure that people it's as fair as possible. So that's one thing. It's just like your contributor experience has to be good. And so we think about like, what does it feel like to contribute to Clarity? The other thing is that we're extremely honest about what the product needs right now, and we don't compromise on that for other people's like opinions about what they want to work on. Because, and that might sound like really mercurial, but what it actually does is it says like, hey, this is where we're at right now. If that's not where you're at right now, like maybe you should come back next season. Right. And like, then the person can make a decision. The alternative to that is sort of being like, well, maybe we could do that. Maybe we could do this. And then they come work on board and they invest all that time. And then that's not actually what you're going to do. Right. And then people get mad. And so we just don't do that. Like we just sort of say like, okay. And then, but once people are in and onboarded and we really like working with them, if they're working with us for more than 20 hours a week, I sit down with them for 30 minutes one-on-one every week. And so, and I ask them sort of like, what's going on in their lives? Like, how are they doing as a person? Like if they're having a lot going on at work, at home, then like I'll sort of divert stuff away from them for a period of time so that they can sort of recover. And then also sort of ask them just what do they want to get better at? Like as a dev or as a designer or as a community leader, like how are you trying to evolve as a person and as a professional? And then I try and see if there's space for that to grow in that way at Clarity. And if there isn't, then I'm just honest and I'm saying, hey, I don't think that we're going to have openings for that. But maybe, next season there's something like that. And so then they make a decision. Do I want to continue working here for the next season? Or do I think that this is my time to offboard, right? And I think it's just like about being really honest and transparent and not trying to just like recruit and retain people just to recruit and retain them, but to actually just retain the people who are genuinely here to be here because they are aligned with what the org currently needs. And that they are in the right place in their lives to do this. Like I'm honest with people when I say like, this is a really like intense place to contribute. And so you really got to believe because like the team is like really, like we do a lot, we build a lot, we ship a lot. And if that's what you want to do, if you want to come here and ship a lot right now, like this is the place to be. If you're looking for something a little bit, you just had a kid, like maybe this is not the right place for you to contribute right now. But maybe we have other roles that are more part-time that like could be for that. Right. And so just being honest, I think, and understanding where they are as a whole person, not just as like a developer, and trying to align like that more bigger picture with the whole org. So that everyone can be like present on the team.
Yeah, I think self-care and recognizing that we're all people is like a key part of it too. It's like it's not just someone on the end of a Discord channel that is doing work. We all have lives and families and responsibilities or jobs, and there's definitely a lot of focus that's taken towards supporting an organization, especially if you are in charge of other people and helping to help other people grow. People think that leadership is about power. It's more about enabling other people to do what they need to do and unblocking people. I think you also touched on a really important part is like offboarding people and making sure that the organization can stay healthy by maintaining a flow. Sometimes when people become inactive, rather than kind of have them linger on, having a clear distinction of like, I'm sorry, you're not contributing to this part. It is part of keeping core contributors rather than building followers, so to speak. Because I think a big part is about doing things rather than just talking about them. So I think one of the things that I want to touch on is like where tools are going. So we've seen a lot of tools about quests and time management. We've seen tools about effectively tracking engagement. Are there any tools that you guys wish were out there that could help make your lives and everyone else's lives better? We saw a calendar service earlier too. Are there any services out there that saying, I wish there were some tools for this that would help improve our projects or, kind of the DAO space? Is there anything out there that you guys are hungry for? I think I'll start with Raj. I know this one's kind of a trickier question.
One DAO tool that I really want is I want a tool that can give me holistic data of different wallets I'm holding, of different wallets I'm having right now. Because when we check reputation tools or any workspace tool or anything, right? Usually they are connected with one wallet, but in Web3 that's not the case, right? Like a person doesn't hold only one wallet. A person holds at least 10 wallets. That's the case for myself. So I want someone to create a tool which can give you combined data of 10 wallets, and then this data can be used by all other tools to, like, let's say if clarity wants to have a login system, then they could have like any, if you can log in via any of these 10 wallets using this particular layer. I want something like that to be built. I don't know when it will build, but this is something that's really required if we want blockchain and Web3. We want some substantial tools to be developed in this space. We want people to adopt those tools. Then we need something like that.
I think decentralized identity needs to kind of catch up to how people are using their online identities. So I think that that's a great suggestion. Thanks. How about you, Richie? Do you have any suggestion?
Yeah, I mean, what Raj is looking for to me sounds like signing with Ethereum, like the standard. So it's like we were the first project to integrate sign with Ethereum. It's a way for it's a standard for actually signing a nonce to initiate a traditional web session using your wallet. And you can do this, like people have been doing this, but the problem that it's solved is like actually getting everyone on the same sort of format and like signature and everything, so you can trust it and implement it faster. And so I think that that's a good start. Obviously it's not the final evolution of that, but I do think it's a good place. And I would like to see more projects implement it according to spec. Because I think that we sort of have to converge on certain standards, and that it's a community accepted standard. It complies with like a specific proposal that was merged into Ethereum to support it. So, I'd like to see more folks adopt that. As far as the tools that I think are interesting to pop up is, so there's a lot of folks doing like credentialing and creating like credentialing protocols for like micro credentials or for this or for that. And I think that one thing that I've been thinking about is that like these credentialing systems sort of need to have a stronger opinion about like how their credentials are going to be used and like what kinds of credentials. So you look at something like POAP, which is probably like the most successful credentialing, so like badging system, right? And it's like that is like very opinionated about the way in which you use a POAP and like what's a POAP for, and that like makes it easy for people to like know, oh, like this is a POAP, this person has POAPs, this is what they did, like, and how to also when to issue POAPs, right? And I think that we need that kind of like opinionated stance on credentialing for more types of things. And a lot of the credentialing people I talk to, they're like, oh, we don't really have an opinion, like we can be used for any kind of credentialing. And I actually think that like dilutes the value of the credentials on their protocol. And so I'd love to see more opinionated takes on that.
I think that that's a really strong point about tools, is that tools should have an opinion, and if they try and do everything, that they probably won't do one of the things that you want very well. So I think it's definitely important for things to be specific, and that also gives rise for other people to step in and fill the need and the market demand for other people too, rather than have one product that does all of it, that none of it kind of works. So very good, very good. I like that. And I think the DID profile part kind of fits in really well with that too. Like how does it all integrate together in a way that people can see it? Pete, how about you? Do you have any suggestions or any tools that you would like to see built or in the next year, or something that would help you out?
I'm always more so like into like bringing these things together, like with identities. Now we built our profiles on ceramic, and then we'll be building it on spruce. Then there's lens. There's like 5 different projects doing identity, and then like how do you piece these things together, like to say like, okay, so this is this address holds it, and then have a front end that actually loads their identities from, like aggregates them from across the like different protocols or different tools for identities. And I think it's about the same way in the DAO tooling like world. Like so many different pieces all over the place. You know how it's been in metagame. Like we have 20 different links. Maybe not 20, but like a wiki on one side and profiles on there, and then the newsletter here, and then the podcast there, and then here's Discord, and then the forums are on that way. Like, and then voting, then minting, staking. Like it's all on these different websites, different links, different interfaces, and so yeah, like it's going the same way with like these different questing systems. Like everybody, like a lot of different tools that have a questing system, and then you're like join 5 different DAOs. They all use different ones, and it's like fuck. And then yeah, it's just not possible to work across DAOs, and just working in one DAO, it's annoying because you have so many of these different things all over the place. So like for me, the tool that I want is really something that like brings it all into a single interface, and like enables what Richie was talking about. So like projects focusing on what they are good in, and then have this place where these different pieces can be plugged in based on these different like how you set it up, and like making Web3 more user centric. So it's not like all these different everywhere based on different DAOs, but so like okay, you in 5 different DAOs that use 5 different questing systems, but in this interface you have a journal, and then journal aggregates all the quests that you're like assigned to like across different DAOs, things like that, and the dashboard that lets you know.
I think that reminds me a lot of the demo that we saw at Atlantis World yesterday. Not sure if you've had a chance to check out Atlantis World, but it's a kind of like a Pokemon kind of interface, but it's able to incorporate a lot of different tools and dApps into the same interface so that you can walk around and have kind of the same unified experience while going through all these different tools and platforms. So I think that the metaverse, as we've heard about it, we'll start to see some of these tools integrate and kind of converge on either a shared platform. We saw a lot of stuff in Neos over the weekend as well. So I think as we build up these profiles and identities, that we'll start seeing them kind of converge in these different places that we're meeting up, which hopefully lead to less of the focus shifting. How about you, Seth? Do you have any tools that would help make your life easier that you think are around the corner for someone building?
Yeah, honestly, I've been so heads down building in SourceCred and putting out fires that I really haven't had a chance to even check out a lot of these tools that I think are really exciting. So I'm kind of looking forward to just playing with things like Coordinate or dgov. Clarity looks interesting. dwork, someone has spun up an instance in SourceCred, so I want to kind of play with that. But yeah, sort of, I guess, like just more abstractly to answer the question, I'm feeling similar to Peeth in wanting something that can filter information from all these different places. Perhaps, visualize it also, like whether that's token flows or just visualizing the social graph. I think that kind of thing could go a long way in generating cohesion in a way that doesn't require top-down power structures. And then I think like the last thing that I've been thinking about is dynamic permissions. And I know that there's like a lot of interesting stuff there that like Gnosis and Moloch and different projects are doing. And I'm kind of like looking forward to seeing what's being done there. But but yeah, I think that if you can have dynamic permissions that like reflect the consensus of a group, then that could be used to decentralize power in a credibly neutral way. And I think that that could be very powerful.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, one of the metagame players, M Prime, came up with a bot that was used for tracking skills. And we previously were talking about using it for like trust mapping as well. And I think having the ability to see connections between people and also like understand like the implicit trust levels of things helps with kind of what you're saying. I think one of the other crazy things that I've seen recently is Metacred, and that's kind of like combining different source grid algorithms together to get a larger sense of how you're doing overall in the Web3 space. So yeah, I definitely think that SourceCred is coming up with some amazing tools, and we'll see some new applications of the existing tools too as we move into these spaces. So yeah, I think that those are great suggestions. We've got a little bit of time left. I think I want to talk a little bit about what it takes to be in Web3, and just kind of like what it's like living this life and the focus. we talked a lot about like how much our focus has shifted, but I know I personally, after many years, I'm still working almost like now it's 7 a.m. to about 2 or 3 a.m. every night, Monday through Monday. So luckily, my wife and family are very understanding, and they give me the time that I have, and I try and fit in time as well. But what about your guys' schedule? How do you deal with living in this 24/7, like pretty fast schedule? I actually likened it to a crypto year as being every 3 months because we're 24 hours a day. So a normal person has to work 8 hours a day. We essentially are working, 3 times that because we're international. So as soon as we are done, someone else is picking up the slack. So I'll start with Seth. Seth, how do you deal with this situation? What's kind of like your daily life like, and how do you keep your focus with so many distractions?
Not well. I'll share some heuristics that I've developed to keep me sane. Like one is, and I think that this is really just like, kind of a Web3 ethos, is to just do it and take responsibility for your actions, including being very aware of, the impact you're going to have, and consent and communication, but just owning it. Also just putting the people first. My primary concern when thinking about anything is how will this affect the people around me that I care about? That's my prime directive. And also just like have boundaries around and say no a lot. Like, like I as a rule don't reply immediately to most DMs, and I don't reply to all DMs. I don't really work weekends. I put the expectation out there that I'm not available 24/7. And personally, I'm trying to carve out a lifestyle where I'm not working that much. Like I think that if a person can't just work a few hours a week and like live their life doing other stuff, we've failed. And I think that we absolutely can get there because the coordination we're creating is so awesome. that we're like creating a lot of abundance. And so I feel like I'm kind of like going off on a little bit of a tangent, but yeah, that's where I'm at.
I think that was great. I think this is something that is kind of underrated. People see a lot of the shiny parts. There's a lot of sweat and time that goes into it. So I'm definitely supportive of anyone that's able to take that time back. And you do have to really kind of make that time for yourself to have that time. So making expectations that you can have weekends and this stuff are things that you have to give yourself. And especially, with the environment that we're in, people will work nonstop because we're very passionate. So having time to do your life and live other things is critical too. So definitely self-care is important and will help you survive, not just the work day, but in the long run. Thank you. Pete, how about you? What does your day look like, and how do you survive the crypto lifestyle?
And I was like, in the beginning, it's like, oh, you get to be your own boss, work on your own terms. But then it turns out that you're just a pretty bad boss. But like, yeah, in the beginning, I was just, like, to be honest, I would just procrastinate a lot, and it still happens. So, like, these days when I know I need to do something, and I just really avoid doing it, even though it's the most important thing, the highest impact thing, but I like have this avoidance. But yeah, at the same time, like separating work from normal life, like you're sitting at the computer the whole day, and like in the evening, still like DMing, answering questions on DMs, and it's like it just becomes the whole day. Like you live what you're doing. It's a kind of a problem in this space.
Well, I think you've definitely held up longer than a lot of people have, and you've done a great job of being a North Star and organizing us. I think it's easy to procrastinate, and one of the key things in our space is about like being proactive as well. And as you said, like you get into a thing, oh, I'm going to be my own boss, and then you are your own boss. the amount of stuff that you have to do is endless. So yeah, it's definitely
It never feels like you're done enough. Like it's constant anxiety.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's worth it. I wake up and I feel every day I'm accomplishing, exactly what I want to do, and I feel that I'm there because I wanted to be there. So it's definitely worth it. Anything else that you'd like to say, Pete?
Not really. I just finding that balance is sometimes hard.
Yeah, definitely. How about you, Richie? How do you do with being in Web3 and living this life?
So I've never worked in an office before. Like, I mean, I have an office, but I've never like gone to work in like with my whole like in a company with an office, and so I've always had to figure out like the remote work sort of life balance, which I think is a whole skill in itself. And we watched like everybody have to figure that out over the last 2 years. And then the other thing is I've been in Web3 since like late 2018. And so that's like a specific flavor of remote work that has its unique challenges. And so for me, it's like, I like what Seth said about like setting clear boundaries. My boundaries are that I work all the time, but then when I don't work, I set clear expectations that I'm not working at this time. So I usually take Sundays off, but otherwise I'm pretty active. And what I realized is that like my job is a lot of my job has evolved into like I had to start to give up coding, right? Because I was coding the product for the first 2 years. That I can no longer do that. It's not my position. And so I realized it's like my job is sort of just to keep everybody like on the same page. And so I end up having like 4 hours of calls a day, and I sort of do them back to back, like for 4 straight hours. And so what I do is I don't take calls before 11:30. And so I get to the office at 6:30. By the time 11:30 rolls around, I've done everything that's important for the day. and then I have my 4 hours of calls, and then I go exercise, chill out for a bit, and like do email in the evening. And like that's the only way I can think to like get all of like, it's more of like energy management than time management. And so setting the expectation that like I'm not going to be available in the morning because I'm like doing my most important stuff. And then like all my calls happen in this block. And then I'm also going to be like lightly available, like when I'm exercising or the other part. And then in the afternoon, I'm going to get back to if I haven't yet, or in the evening rather. That's been the way that I've found to balance it out where like I actually have the energy to do this stuff. But if something really important hasn't happened by 4 p.m., it's not happening today. If it takes a lot of energy. And so that's the trade-off. You have to sort of admit that to yourself. Like, I'm human. This is not happening today. I'll do it tomorrow.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for sharing. I know that is, a subject that we usually don't cover, and I can tell you, it's something that all of us think about every day. It's like part of like who we are and like how everything gets built around you. So the reason that you see such amazing progress is because the people around you are passionate and they're working their butt off. So big props to all the teams that are out there building the tools and working to herd cats, make awesome projects, support public goods. So thank you, gentlemen. Could you please remind everyone of who you are? And I think we'll probably close the day down after that. So let's go around the room. Pete?
Pete, working on this metagame thing.
Richie?
We're Richie. I'm Richie. We're building Clarity, the DAO collaboration, DAO contribution platform.
Okay, Raj?
Raj, working with BIP, workspace for communities. Along with that, working on Druts, which is a discovery platform for Web3 communities.
Thank you. And Seth?
Yeah, so I am a self-sovereign freelancer working to make magic internet money appear whenever I create value. And that's probably going to be source code here, just figuring out how to do it.
Awesome. And thank you so much, gentlemen.
I want to plug in MetaOS, so the tool that I'm wishing that exists. We're trying to find more people to help build it, calling it MetaOS.
Awesome. Yeah, the Meta OS is the operating system of the metaverse. So it's got a lot of our best learnings from tools and how you can help set up an organization. Obviously, organizations are built up from the people and the solutions that they are providing. So there's no one size fits for all of them. But yeah, the OS has got a lot of cool experiments that we've done and learnings that you can take away from it. So thank you everyone for helping build the tools. And we'll come back tomorrow as we start talking with all the DAOs that are using these tools. And so we'll have DAO House here. We'll have D-Work. We'll have Deep Work. We'll have a lot of other people, Uber House. So definitely come back tomorrow. We'll have another amazing day. And this is MetaFest 2 on DAO Week. So thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, Penguin. Thank you all.
Thank you.
See ya.